I'm here in beautiful Santa Monica, California at the headquarters store for ElectroBike. This is an electric bike company from Mexico, actually Mexico City, and they've got about 25 stores in Mexico and maybe, a handful in the United States, including this flagship store. They offer some really cool bikes, like a whole range. They're definitely more value priced, and they do have some value components. The Dash is their most affordable model, not to be confused with the iZip E3 Dash. This is just the Dash. It's $800, not bad at all. It's a relatively petite bike. You can see that it's got this nice step-through frame design, 15-inch seat tube there, so I call it a 15-inch bike. 24-inch wheels versus 26 or even 28, so this is definitely smaller. It brings the whole bike a little bit lower. Aluminum alloy frame, steel fork, dampens a little bit of the vibration. The tires themselves are 1.75 in width, a little bit more of this hybrid style, so it's fairly comfortable. Steel fenders, handy, but they're pretty solid. Steel, I've noticed, can get kind of bent and dinged up a little bit more than plastic, but they do look nice. They're matched and everything like that. It's even got a headlight that's integrated, kind of runs off the battery, and the battery pack is right here in the down tube. You can't take it off, so if you want to charge, you're just going to have to bring the bike inside or use an extension cord or something like that. And this little box right here is the controller. So I was not able to find battery voltage or amp hours anywhere on their website. I actually had to kind of request from some of the higher ups at the company, like, tell me, what are the specs on this? They said 36 volt, 9 amp hours. I'm not sure. I guess that kind of makes sense. It's about average, maybe a little bit below. 350 watt internally geared rear motor. So you're actually getting just a touch below average on this bike. And considering, I think it's about 48 pounds, so a touch below average weight. A lot of electric bikes weigh about 50. You're getting a pretty great deal here. Definitely kind of a bargain. Super simple display and kind of a heads up area here. You've got a key. You have to stick that in and actually turn it on. You can't remove the key. It has to stay there and it can kind of dangle. But you get a couple of them and it mostly stays out of the way. You can see up here there's a battery level indicator, 5 bars there, 3 of green, and then kind of the warning yellow and red for when you're completely running out. You can change assist level here, 1, 2, 3, and that is kind of relating to this little cadence sensor down here. I believe it's like a 5 sensor system, so pretty basic. That means it's going to take a little bit longer, more pedaling time for it to activate, and then you might stop pedaling and it might still be going for a few seconds. But thankfully these 5-star levelers up here have motor inhibitors, so as soon as you activate the brake, it's going to go ahead and stop. So that's really nice. It has a cutoff, and frankly the twist throttle is really satisfying. The whole bike does a pretty good job. It's a nice little ride here, and you can see right there 36 volt, 350 watts. At first I was like, is it really 350 watts? It feels a little bit below something like a Dapu motor that I've seen on some of the Easy Motion bikes or whatever, but it's plenty for something like this. It's a little bit smaller diameter wheels because there's kind of more of a mechanical advantage for the motor. It doesn't have to strain as much for a larger diameter wheel. I noticed that it has these cool kind of pegs on the back. I've seen those on some of the other imported sort of made in China bikes before, and this is made in China. I've seen a stamp on the frame, so they say they assemble probably at wherever the store is, so I don't actually think it's made in Mexico. A lot of the electric bike stuff is Chinese. Steel frame rack here for carrying some cargo, maybe like a cargo bag or some panniers on the side. Standard gauge tubing, that's pretty nice. Mounts in 4 places, seems pretty solid. Gives this bike a lot of utility. And even the saddle, pretty plush, a little bit oversized. Got a little bit of a riser bar in the front. It's right sized for someone who's a little bit more petite. Again, it's going to be easy to stand over, easy to handle this thing. I like the pedals a lot too. They're kind of these, they look plastic to me, and plastic like platform. They're a little bit wider and larger. The other thing that stood out is that it has a drum brake in the rear with a lock. So you can kind of like lock this thing almost like a cafe lock. Someone would try to ride it away, they can't. They could pick it up and try to carry it away, but they're not going to be able to ride it when you've got that drum brake locked. This doesn't stop as effectively, nearly as effectively as something like these V brakes up here. So this is more traditional. And actually, to activate that, you pull the right lever. So it's like they're reversed. I'm used to sort of the left lever being the front. Maybe that's more of a European style. Here's the headlight button, so if the bike's on, you can press that. It runs right off the battery. Just very cool. Kind of a neat design. 7 LEDs up there, pretty nice. And then a little annoying horn, kind of a beep thing. it's a good setup. You know, there's definitely a lot of extras, especially for $800, and they give you a 1-year comprehensive warranty plus 7 years on the frame, so you're getting a lot there. Also, the kickstand. This is a real nuisance sometimes when you're trying to get the bike going for the first time. You actually have to press this in, little lock, and then just pedal it forward, and that really oversized double leg stand folds up. I think that probably adds some of the weight to this bike. It's not something I'm used to seeing. Usually I just see like the single side arm kind of thing, but that's fine. And if you wanted, there is a mounting point for a more traditional kickstand right behind the bottom bracket. So there we go. I think that's a pretty good overview. Pretty nice. Oh, looks like we've got a steel chain guard too. Keeps your pants clean and everything matches the frame. Just real nice. I think it might be time to hop on this thing and just pedal around and give you some idea of what the motor sounds like. I'm just gonna start off in pedal assist level 3. It's probably the most powerful and active sounding. Definitely took a minute to respond. It wasn't immediate, but when I stopped pedaling, it quit out pretty quickly. The other thing about this bike is that it's a single speed, so you really only have 1 gear to pedal in, and getting started can take a little bit more effort. And then if you do reach kind of that 20 mile per hour top speed, you end up kind of pedaling a little bit faster. Not quite as comfortable, but it keeps this thing more affordable. Definitely reduces the need for maintenance, that kind of thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and do throttle mode this time and just show you how that looks. I like that you can override with throttle at any time, regardless of the assist level you're in. Pretty satisfying. And you know, you hear it whirring a little bit, but it's not too bad. You know, it kind of fades out. One of the other points I wanted to make about that display is that you can't really tell how far you've gone. You can't tell how fast you're going. There's no odometer. You can't even really tell what assist level you're in unless you look at that little toggle switch, and if you were glancing down, it might be unclear. So I guess you could kind of learn to feel your way through those 3 levels. So I've been climbing some of these hills in the neighborhoods and stuff, and it's performing pretty well. I mean, you know, it's an average size rating on that motor, but it does all right. One thing I have noticed is that occasionally I'll be in the highest level of assist, which also gives you the most power with the throttle, and it almost gets stuck. Like, I let go of it, it kind of springs back to the default position, but I'm still getting power. I'm not sure if that's because I was pedaling and there's the delay with the 5-sensor assist or what, but if you're in that situation, just tap those brake levers and it should kill power to the motor. So that's important. And then before, when I was riding, you know, it seemed like, oh, the motor wasn't working. And that's because I was in the lowest level of assist. I found out that it must be speed-based, because see, it is working now. We're just on the, you know, it's kind of lifted up, elevated with that kickstand, and it is working. It's just not going to go as powerfully or as fast. So yeah, this little switch here kind of changes the power level that you're getting from the motor, and it does not seem like there's a throttle only mode. So with that said, I'm going to do a little bit of a climbing test here. This is definitely a hill. You know, it's not a super steep hill. I'm not a super heavy guy. I'm like 135 pounds, but it should give you some idea of what to expect sound-wise. Oh, here we go. There we go. See, my hand's off the throttle and I'm still going. Okay, so I made it back to the ElectroBike sort of outlet in Santa Monica. Are we in Venice or Santa Monica officially?
Santa Monica.
Cool. This is Lamont. How's it going, buddy?
Doing great. Thank you for coming.
Awesome. You've been very helpful today. It's kind of cool to get to see all the different models that you guys have. And one of the question marks on this bike in particular, the Dash, is that I noticed that when I held the throttle completely open, it would sort of stay that way, and I thought, I was like, is something wrong with it? And you told me, like, oh, that's a feature. So any of those 3 levels of assist, if you hold the throttle, it's like a cruise control. It's designed to do that. And to deactivate it, again, you just pull one of those brake levers and it's gonna shut that off. This bike, I was pretty impressed. Like, given the smaller wheels and stuff, like, it's pretty comfortable with the saddle. There is no suspension fork. You could probably add a suspension seat post if you wanted to add some comfort, but in those lower levels of assist and that little bit more upright body position, it felt pretty good to me. And it's just, wanted to do another walk around and again, kind of work out that point you made about the cruise control. Also, I didn't get quite as low earlier. Here is the charge port at the base. Charger for this thing, super light, looks like a laptop charger. It's about a pound, under a pound actually. You can see some of the wires are run below the frame versus through it, that kind of thing. But still done a pretty good job keeping them out of the way. Does this come in any other colors, Lamont?
That comes in white.
A white, okay. Is that kind of a gloss white?
It's a gloss white, kind of similar to what's on the seal.
Similar to the seal right here. Okay, that's great. So you get a couple choices. The black looks great with all the wires a little bit more integrated, but it's not going to have the same visual footprint. So if you're out riding around, people are going to spot you easier if you're a little bit more reflective. And I love the fact that it has an integrated headlight that runs right off the battery. That's a really nice little extra for a bike in this price range. No quick release on the front wheel though, by the way. So if you end up needing to do maintenance or whatever, want to transport this a little easier in your car, just kind of keep that in mind. You might need a couple extra tools. So very cool. Yeah, I think that's it. That's the ElectroBike Dash. Relatively affordable, kind of like a petite, easy to handle electric bike. For the full write-up on this and some of the other electro bikes, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Ride safe.